What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 10. We finally made it to episode 10 of the Everyday Witness, and we're here with intern number 2. Now, y'all already met Andrew, but now you get to meet one of my guys, the one I've pretty much known the longest out of anybody up here besides Rhino and Sam. But this is Austin Thomas. Austin, man, I appreciate you coming
Of
on today.
course, yeah. I'm glad to be here, and I know this has been trying to make this happen for a couple weeks now, so I'm glad I'm able to make it.
No, absolutely. For those who don't know, Austin and I also work together, along with Andrew and Maddie, who y'all meet probably later today. We all work in the student ministry as student ministry interns. So we've been working together all year with Wild Week, Beach Week, SLU, everything. So
Sleepless nights,
sleepless nights, not many early mornings, but
yeah, it's
it,
crazy, but
it's
it's
been,
fun.
oh no, absolutely. But Austin, obviously, not many of them know you. So why don't you kind of give a little background as to who you are, where you're from, and everything?
Yeah, so obviously my name's Austin, and um, I was born in Florida, but I've been in Knoxville pretty much my whole life. I grew up in First Baptist Concord, and have a lot of connections here and been really blessed to been able to serve with the student ministry for ever since middle school pretty much, and these past 2 summers being a intern here with the student ministry, just like we were talking about with doing camps, going to SLU, going to Camp 45, Beach Week, Wild Week, all that sort of stuff, even CQ. And it's just been awesome to kind of see through the years how that's developed, and we've just been doing really well here. And it's just been an awesome time to be a part of the student ministry as we keep going. So I'm excited for what it has to hold when we're gone. But it's just been really awesome to see these past 2 summers, especially just seeing all these kids and making connections with them and relationships that will last for a long time. So
Well, you said you grew up in First Baptist Concord. Did you go to CCS? Did you go to Farragut?
yeah,
Where did you
so I went to Farragut the whole time. Had a couple of times where I thought it might have been better for me to be at CCS, but I'm glad that my family and all my siblings grew up in Farragut and at Farragut, all Farragut schools, and it was very different from here. And I have a lot of friends that went to CCS just through connections of church and that sort of thing, but it was just kind of a time where my family thought it'd be better for to us to go to Farragut, and I loved it there. So
Well, that's awesome. So, kind of give us a background. Obviously, I believe you're a Christian because we've been preaching a little bit together.
obviously,
But
yep, yep.
kind of give us a background as to when you accepted Christ, got baptized, and all that, and how that's kind of been the past. I want to say probably 10 years of your faith,
Yeah.
if you will.
Um, well, I accepted Christ when I was 7 years old, and which is very young. But I did it a little bit after Concord Quest here when I was going through it, and I didn't really understand everything that it meant. But everyone else in my family at the time were Christians, and I saw the difference that was happening in their lives, and especially my sister, who I have a twin, so she accepted Christ before I did, and I was like always around her and all that sort of thing, obviously. Um, and I just saw a difference in her life, and I was like, "Whoa, like what's going on, and why is everything so different?" And I kind of wanted to experience that, but I didn't know fully what it meant. And then going through CQ, talking about all what that meant, really helped me out. And then a few weeks later, I decided that it would be in my best interest to follow God for the rest of my life. So I went through that, and it was awesome, and I still remember it to this day, like everything that happened. But like I said, I was really young, so went through that through a couple years later, and decided that I wanted to get baptized. So it's a little bit interesting of a story that yes, I did get baptized, and of course I was completely saved, and I knew what that meant, but I wasn't just completely living it out. So that's why I wanted to be baptized. I wanted to show everyone else that hey, like this is my time now to go out and show everyone that I'm a follower of Christ. And then I kind of wrestled with that, kept going on, and uh, through that, I was able to kind of test out what I was gonna do and that sort of thing. But I was just so young. So um, we went to a camp, and I just kind of realized I think it was our middle school camps a long time ago, but um, just kind of saw that I wasn't really living that out like I wanted to, and kind of decided that I accepted Christ when I was young, and I was so little that I just didn't really know what I had to do in order to take that step. And uh, I decided to. They say rededicate and that sort of thing, but I just wanted to continue to do what's right, and I kind of started to understand more about uh, what it really meant to be a Christian and a follower of Christ. So I decided to do that, and I know that term is like kind of looked down on, or sometimes it's not, but uh, I did kind of walk through that phase where I didn't really know exactly what was going on, and I knew that I had to do something in order to kind of make myself understand and then show everyone else that um, that was the decision that I made myself. So
Wow, that's awesome. So you said you haven't just served here one summer for Concord students. You've actually this is your second in a row.
yeah, this is my second in a row. Past few years, like all going through all about high school mainly. I mean, middle school was awesome, but I just remember like later in my high school years that I got really close with Justin and our pastors here, and Sam and all of them. And I was serving, doing uh, production stuff, whether that was like cameras or sound or just running the slides on Wednesdays or whatever around here. And I kind of did that in students and in our main worship services too. But I kind of knew that I wanted to be around here. I loved being around here, and it was just enjoyable for me to kind of get out of school and come here, hang out with people that I looked up to, and so kind of made that connection and with them early on. And when I got into college, um, I was like, this is what I kind of want to see uh, me do in the summer. So I asked and I reached out and kind of saw, tried to see what was going on and if they had a position open for me. And they did. So came here last summer as out of my first year of college, and it was awesome. Um, got to experience and learn a lot of new things about ministry. I was really curious about what ministry was outside of just kind of seeing it from an outside perspective. So kind of working in it on the inside, and it showed me a lot, and I learned a lot. But when I went back to college, not that I had a bad experience here, I was like I wanted more, and I wanted to keep learning, and I wasn't sure if that was in a different area or not. So went to a mission trip with Concord in Uganda over spring break this year, and the whole time Justin was just kind of like trying to get me to come back and all this sort of stuff, and I was like, well, I kind of wanted to experience it in a different area, and that's kind of what I thought. But I learned that I was able to come back here and learn some different stuff, even though it's kind of all around the same things. So I've just been really thankful for them, uh, kind of show me what ministry is like in the inside and out, and been able to learn a lot here. So I'm grateful for it.
So you said you've been here for 2 years. What do you think, as far as the difference between the 2 years, like that you've learned in ministry, if you will?
Yeah. So in ministry and like seeing it from the outside, it's like they're doing all these events, all these camps, and it's so much fun, and we're living it out and having a blast. And it's still like that on the inside. Like we still hang out, we still have a good time, and there's a lot to of planning that goes on and that sort of thing. So I didn't really realize that, even though I probably should have. And there's a lot of you know hard work that goes on with it, and there's a lot of fun that goes along with it. And I think I just didn't really see a lot of the. There's a lot of times where we're doing stuff that we're getting sweaty and taking a bunch of air mattresses off from lifts and all that sort
Oh
of things
man.
and climbing, and but that stuff you'll always remember, even though like people might not see it from the outside. but I kind of learned that there's a lot of stuff in the inside that people don't see that is still for the glory of God, and is still valuable and useful to learn from, even though it might not seem like it on the outside. So I've been able to learn a lot through that the past 2 years, and just also like it's been awesome trying to um, help plan on Sundays and that sort of thing, preach on those days, kind of see how the Lord works through that as I kind of decide whether I want to go into business or ministry or both in that sort of aspect. So that's kind of what I've been trying to figure out over these years, ever since getting into college. And that's also why I really just wanted to um, come back and continue to do ministry, to kind of test those waters and see if that's where God wants me. So,
Well, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. I've gotten to see that all year this year, a little bit last year with when I was at Broadmoor, but
yeah.
definitely got to see more of it this year, which is really cool to
I
kind
will
of.
say that like last year was a lot different than this year, just the aspect of what's going on, I think, in the church, but also here because we were going through a transition last year of going into a new student building, um, going to see how this all works out, and trying to kind of revamp it a little bit too with our area and trying to make it more of a place where we can invite more people in and they can just see Christ through all of this. I mean, this space is really awesome. And last year we were just kind of crammed into a corner. It kind of felt like, but it still went really well. So
No, absolutely. I bet it did. I mean, being here for only 2 months, I've seen how student ministries looked amazing
yeah,
since I've been here.
it's been great.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a blessing. Well, obviously, everybody has a story, and whether it's their testimony or whether it's part of it or whether it's just has nothing to do with the testimony at all, we all see how stories can lead not only others but ourselves into a stronger relationship with Christ or into one if they haven't been in one already. So my question to you is, what story do you feel like God's been putting on your heart to share?
Well, I gotta have a little bit of a mix of stories, I guess.
Tell them all. I'm here
Yeah,
for it.
I kind of blend them all together and uh, kind of keep them. I'm not gonna share everything, obviously,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm very open to share a little bit about what's gone on in my life and how God's worked through that. So, when I was 10, so this is 10 years ago, actually, almost on the money. Um, my grandmother uh, passed away, and she was only in her 60s, and that was kind of hard to see um, that as like really early age, kind of seeing loss that early in my life, which uh, it was just hard because she wasn't a Christian. And
You were talking about your story. What story do you have to share for us today?
yeah, so when I was 10 years old, so it'd be 10 years ago, um, pretty close to the time, um, my grandmother on my dad's side passed away, and she was only in her 60s, and that was kind of hard to see loss that early on in my life. Didn't really know how all that went, and that sort of thing. But the hardest part was that she wasn't a Christian, and so we were trying to work on the past few years before that was just to see if they were open to talking about it and that sort of thing. And her and my grandfather weren't, and that was kind of hard to see happen. But I knew that the Lord had a plan for my life and for my family as we continued on, and that was just kind of hard to see. Um, but I knew that, I mean, life doesn't end there. I had to keep going, had to keep pushing on, and that sort of thing. And shortly after that, my dad lost his job, and this was a job that he pretty much moved here for, or the job that was after what we moved here for, and what brought us to Knoxville. But um, that was like I didn't really know, like never really saw anyone in my family lose their job like that. It was kind of out of the blue, really unexpected, um, and that was just hard to like handle hand in hand. And then my mom was uh, she got really sick, and we found out at church, and that's been kind of going on for the past few years too. I've just been trying to handle that and all that together at the same time when I was that young was really hard to go about. But I had a bunch of people sit close to me. I had a bunch of friends, and I had this church to kind of um, come along with me, and kind of like what we've been talking about in church, a little bit of like just sharing our struggles and kind of going along with that. Um, and man, that was just a hard time in my life, and that I had to learn from too, just being that young, of being like this is a time where the Lord is trying to work in my life. And even though I had such a hard time with it, like with my even my family, like it was kind of hard to hang around my family, just seeing all that happen so fast on this span of like a year or two. So that was hard, and some of it kind of still continues today. But I've learned so much since then of just that, you know, God's gonna work it out for the good, and as long as I continue to trust in Him, um, He will lead me in the right direction. So I've been kind of living by that for pretty much all my life, after accepting Christ, just because all the family struggles that have kind of happened, and um, it's just been awesome to see that we're still together. We're all still close knit, and the Lord's worked through it in big ways. Because when I was little, I didn't understand it, and also being like 3 to 5 years into my relationship with God, like it was just like, why would God do this to these people who are so innocent and have done nothing wrong? But I kind of learned that, in some ways or forms, um, we all experience that at some point, and we just have to continue to trust that God's with us and that He'll work it out. So kind of been a big part of my life, and just stuff that I've kind of gone through early on, but it's built me to just kind of become more of a godly man. So that's kind of why I continue to do this stuff, and I want to share to other people that what's gone in my life and just my testimony, because I know that um, my story isn't just for myself. And Justin's told this to me a lot, and it's for somebody else. Like we talked about that a lot in high school, and that's kind of stuck with me too. Of just like, man, I'm not here just for myself. I'm here to serve the Lord and give Him glory, but also going out and making disciples, like He's called us to. So, and that was a story that's kind of impacted me, and it's kind of led me to a point of like, since I want to share all this stuff so much, and since the Lord's done such a big work in my life, I want to kind of see if I can go into ministry, if that's where He's called me, or um, kind of go into business and what I'm doing in college. But either way, I know that He's gonna um, give me opportunities to share with other people, and whether that is in full time ministry or not. So
Well, that's awesome. It's cool to see how, obviously, and I talked to Jacob about this yesterday about how like a certain loss can definitely affect you, not
yeah,
just mentally but also spiritually.
hmm
And it was cool to kind of see how like even through that, like obviously you lead on Concord,
yeah.
you lead on your guys, your girls, and whatever, but whoever it may have been, you leaned on your people, and
And
in
I
the
was
same
just
way.
like really glad to have a really good life group here, that we all stuck together for a long time. And um, even though my mom went through a serious sickness, and it still kind of affects her today, and I went through a serious loss early on in my life, like I knew that I could go out and um, rely on the people around me to kind of lift me up, and they were awesome about that. Like even when we were young, their families helped out. They helped out, and it was just really cool to see, and it brought me to attention of like, man, the Harley community is where it all happens, and it's where I'm supposed to be. So it kind of also kind of gave me a perspective of like, these are the type of people that I need to hang around for the rest of my life. And I think that just kind of prepared me as I went on into high school and into college and stuff like that. And man, we're still friends. Like we still have memories from a long time ago and camp and church and all that sort of stuff. But it's been really good to have those friendships and those people around me. So
But I say, like you said, you still hang around those guys to this day. I mean, I feel like I met a few of them at least.
yeah,
But for those watching, you kind of want to give us like an idea of like how they've kind of been there for you through it all, or how y'all have stuck together for this long.
yeah. I think a lot of it just happened early on. Like there, so kind of how it happened was um, even in like kindergarten and that sort of stuff. Like I had the same sort of leaders, uh, the Zacharys, who you know Tyson. So um, his parents like stuck with my age group and a group of us like when we were in the kids ministry, and then they just kind of kept going along with us as our age group went up. They went up with us to be our leaders and that sort of thing. And then when it split to middle school and high school, and the guys went with um, Mr. Zachary, and that's just kind of when the time that hit that I realized that I love these people, and they're just fun and awesome to hang around. So um, we had a pretty close knit group all throughout high school, and um, man, we did life together, and we also had a lot of fun, even outside of church and that sort of thing. We made it a priority to um, see each other, to hang out, to go, whether it's play basketball or just go have fun or go hang out at someone's house. Like we did that a lot, and then that kind of just brought its own community, and we kind of carried that on just together. And it's changed in some ways throughout the years, um, with people just going in different ways and that sort of thing. But it stayed awesome. Like it's just been evident that God's um, got us all together, and um, we've had that close knit group, and they've just been. They know my story. They've known what's gone on in my life, and they know what I need to, and I know what they need to in their lives too. And it's not like um, it's not selfish in any sort of way. Um, Obviously, we rely on God more than each other, but it's awesome to be in a godly community where people will understand what you're kind of walking through, and they kind of know um, that they're also there just to help out in any sort of way. And it's just been really cool to see that through my friends and my siblings' friends and their communities that they have too, and even in my parents and their friends too. So it's just been cool to kind of see groups collide together and just they're there for each other. We've got each other's backs, whether it's just stuff that we're walking through, stuff that they're walking through. We know that we can pray for them and God's going to be there for them. And it's also just kind of cool to see how God works it out. Like it's not always going to be the best times in our lives where this stuff kind of happens, but we kind of know how we can help each other. And since we've grown up and gotten older, we know the different ways that we're able to help. And it's just been really cool to see. Even when I've gone on to college 2 hours away, I still continue to come back here and visit with them and have that friendships because it's so strong. And I know that they're always going to be there for me. So it's awesome.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I kind of have a group of ours back in Eatsby. We have a group called, we call ourselves, I don't know why somebody coined this up. We call ourselves the Fellowship. It's like Lord of the Rings over here. I don't know why it is, but,
Yeah.
and they'll know this when they watch this, but we've had 30 guys in our group. And what we've done over the past years, we have BSM, we have a group, it's like a big group thing, but then the 30 of us go to one of our rooms and we'll just have community. And it's really cool to kind of see how, like, that community, regardless of what you've been through, regardless of what you're struggling with, like that they're always there for you.
Right.
It's kind of cool to see how like I'm not the only one that gets to experience that. Like
Yeah.
you have your guys, I have mine,
Of course.
and even then, even with that, like I feel like I've been able to hang out with your guys, and it's been really cool to kind of see how like y'all are all there for each other. Y'all stick out for each other. Y'all stick there for each other. It's really cool for me to see because it's
Yeah.
like me kind of coming home a little bit.
And like that happened so early on in my life too, and I just want other people to experience that too. Of like this is a time where it's important to build the community that you have, and it's not always very like I think it's like kind of a rare occasion where like the people that you hung out with in even before middle school into middle school and high school, like we're still together and we know each other so well. But it's just cool to see how God works that community out. And like, even though we all might be in separate areas, like we can still text and check up on each other and see how they're doing, and um, asking when we're gonna hang out next, and kind of be there for each other. But also like just having like we've had group chats where it's just a bunch of people that we know and trust, and we're just like, hey, can you pray for me through this? This is what I'm kind of walking through. You don't even have to say much. You just got to start typing, and they're all like there for you, and that sort of thing. And it's just cool to see that like they've got my back, and I can trust them and rely on them a little bit as I walk through these times. And it's just all pointed me toward the Lord of how good He is, and how um, He's built these people around me to kind of have that community with. And and that's why I think like student ministry has just kind of been a big part of my life, and I kind of want to stay around it as long as I can, just because I knew what happened early on in my life and how it's impacted the years after I've even left it, and it's just been a huge part of my life, and I want to continue to see that happen in the people that are younger than me. So I feel like that's why I've come back here the past couple of years and just wanted to see um, God working through these kids. So it's been great.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed having the summer with you, man. It's been.
Yeah,
I hate that you have to leave at 4 a.m. in the morning, but we get one more day to hang
that's
out.
right. That's right.
But I got a couple more questions, and
Yeah.
I asked this to everybody, and I told Jacob the same thing yesterday because he kind of went in circles with it. But everybody has one story in the Bible, and whether it's David and Goliath, Daniel and the lion's den, and or whether it's Jesus walking on water, or Thomas being a doubter, we all have these people and stories in the Bible that we feel like have been close to our hearts our entire walk with Christ, or even before that, that helped led us to Christ. But is there a story in the Bible that you feel like God has always kept close to your heart, or that you've always kept close to your heart, that God's always put there in front of you for you to always come back to?
That's a good question. I feel like that kind of changes as I kind of go on with my walk with Christ and that sort of thing. Um, I love all the stories like in the New Testament and that sort of thing where um, God is there and He just heals. Like He heals all, like the blind man. He heals the sickness from the leprosy and that sort of thing. Like it's just been crazy to like see what's gone on in my life through healing, and the power that God, just the evident power that God has through healing, and how that builds us up to be stronger people. But I feel like um, the past few years, like even though they're simple stories, they stick with me. And I feel like that kind of has gone on with um, going on mission trips these past 3 years. The past 3 years, I've gotten the opportunity with Concord to go to Uganda, and it's changed my life in an awesome way. And just seeing how God works in different areas through different struggles and that sort of thing. So while we were there, we kind of talked about two stories that have stuck with me these past few years of Jesus walking on water and the woman at the well. And both of those like are kind of different stories, but we were able to kind of go around that area, and they are simple stories that you can easily dive into and easily understand what's going on and how God's using those people. But the past few years, um, those have kind of been sticking with me, just because I like to go back and think about the things that we were able to do, and the things that God was able to do through us in Uganda and on that mission trip. And those were the two stories that we went around the communities there and talked about, and they're so impactful. And it's also something that, you know, it doesn't. Oh, it also makes me realize that it doesn't have to be the most complex story in the Bible or something that you have to remember verse by verse, but it has to be something that sticks with you and that you can share to other people, what God has done in the Bible and how that kind of reflects what's gone on today. And so I was actually in Uganda sharing one of those stories and was able to lead someone to Christ, even with a language barrier. And that was like the first time I ever got to do that, which changed me and how I went about things and how I went about life. Um, and it just brought a deeper care for those people um, in my life. And it's just stuck with me. And it's not because of something that I did, even though that story helped me um, point someone to Christ. Like, I'm not trying to take all the credit for that. It was definitely God through all of that. Um, but it stuck with me. And um, obviously, there's different meanings in both of those stories, and it can reach a bunch of different people, which is why I like them. But um, they're simple stories that a lot of people know if you grew up in church, but they're really impactful, and that's why I kind of keep them close to me. So,
No, that's awesome. It's always the simple stories though that are the biggest helpers. I mean, I talk about it every time I'm on here that the story of everyday people being a witness by simply sharing their testimony
mm,
is power enough, and
yeah,
God can use that in mighty ways.
yeah. And I think that's just that I also learned that going there, and um, I always wanted to go back, and like I want to go back every year if I could. But it's just like God has a plan for your life, and He's worked through you your whole life. So you definitely have a story if you're a follower of Christ, and you can also ask other people around that don't necessarily that have something missing in their story, and that's kind of why we asked them. And that was part of the mission trip that like we did through Uganda. Like we would go and evangelize to the people with a language barrier, with a translator, and we would just ask them their story and see if they believed in Christ or not. But everyone has a story, whether they believe or not. But some of them had something missing, and they realized that, and we were able to kind of lead them in that way um, of like, hey, like this is something that you need in your life, and that God can definitely help you with, because we see different struggles in different areas, and they're in different walks of life than we are, and so man, that'll always be something that I remember. Just sharing my story, asking other people to share their story, and just kind of letting God work through that. So,
No, that's awesome. I only got one more question for you then, and it kind of goes along with the last one because it's pretty much similar to it. But we talk about stories, but we also talk about how everybody and Jacob really threw this out for yesterday when we talked about it. But everybody has a verse, whether it's their life verse or just a verse that they've just had for the longest time, whether it's memorized or not, or whether it's just always been a part of their testimony. Like we get to see how many different verses are said from
mm.
every person, but what would you consider like your life verse to be?
I think I have two, and
Awesome.
that kind of they kind of blend in together. Just how I'm supposed to show Christ, but also just how the Lord works. And I don't really I know Romans 1:16. Like Romans 1:16 has stuck with me since I've been a kid. Um and it started in kind of an interesting way of just like listening to music a lot and listening to Christian music, and then when Christian rap kind of started to become a thing, that was that verse that they all kind of stuck around, and I was like wondering why they kept talking about it and that sort of thing. But then I realized the importance behind it, and I didn't want to have that as like one of the verses that I stuck with just because a bunch of people that are well known have that. It was because of what God has done in my life. Um, and I'm kind of blanking on the other one where it talks about God works all things for the good for those who know Him. And so, with the story that I have and the story that I have in my life, I don't remember the exact verse. I'm blanking on it right now, but um, through what God has done in my life, that's been a huge part of my testimony of using that verse to kind of show God how God has just worked in and through my life, but also just remembering that I'm unashamed of what I believe in, and I'll share it to anyone, and I don't care what other people have to say about it, whether um, I'm in a different country or the people around me in my day to day life. I'm going to do all that I can to share the light of Christ because it is so important and it's the biggest thing and best thing that can happen in anyone's life. And so, those two verses, a little bit different meanings, but kind of using those hand in hand with the story that I have um, in order to share it with other people, um, which has been awesome to see uh, how those verses, even though I learned them early on in my life, God's used them with the story that I have. And it's just cool to see how God has used me to share those verses and my story and kind of intermix them together to just show the glory of God and to show that I'm unashamed of Christ. So,
Well, that's awesome, and I love that because I get to see how different everybody's lives are as far not as far as faith because we all believe the same thing, but the idea that even through that we all have different parts of the Bible that have always spoken to us differently, and whether that's your different life verses or the different stories in the Bible, we see how God uses every bit of His Word to
yeah,
impact the lives of others. It's really cool to see.
yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're doing this, and it's kind of cool to see, like, everyone has their story, everyone can share. It's something that is simple but very impactful, and um, I loved, like I said, going in like Uganda, even though it's a different country and a different, almost seems like a different world, but it's not. Like it's all um, God's people, and it's just cool to go around there and, like, even with the language barrier or just the people, even here, it's like, well, what's your story like? And then it's that simple question can really lead into some really impactful conversations that you'll never forget, and that's why I love doing it. And that's a question that I'll always keep in my back pocket. It's just kind of getting to know somebody, or even if I've known them for a long time, it's like, hey, like, what's your story? Like, tell me about what God has done in your life. Tell me about the times that you felt God with you, and if it's someone that doesn't know Christ, that's also a really uh, easy question that you can ask them too, because then you can kind of point them in that direction of, like, I've seen that you've kind of gone through this, or you told me that you've gone through this. Like, how did you get through it, or are you still dealing with it, or did you have to rely on something or someone else to do that? And normally, if they're without Christ, then it doesn't always pan out to be the best things. But that's why we ask that question, so we can kind of see where people are walking and see if we can share Christ through that. So that's something that I learned on early on in my life, and I love asking that question. I'm glad that you're doing this and just sharing with other people. So it's cool.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you coming on. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, and
I
it's kind
know
of
it
glad
needs to
that
happen.
even if it happened the last day you're here, I'm glad to have you on because it's been
Yeah,
a blessing to hear more of your
yeah,
story. I've heard bits and pieces, but it's good to finally hear the full story
yeah.
and see how
Piece it all
God's used
together.
you.
That's right. Well, just it's always encouraging to see other people doing stuff like this to just show the glory of God, and it's something simple but really effective. So I want to see it keep going on, and it's cool to see the stories that have already been on here. Um, but I'm kind of excited to see where this goes too. So
Trust me, everybody in Marshall is excited too. I've had more than enough of my guys been like, "Oh yeah, we're ready. Let's get
yeah,
it." So
yeah, I want to see those people too, because most of the people that you've had on here, like, I've known, and it's cool to see their full story too, other than just bits and pieces, but people that I don't know too. So that'll be cool as you go back there. You just keep carrying it on.
oh yeah,
It's fun.
no. Now I'm excited to share the stories of some of my guys that have been really close to me, and also some of coaches that have been, and people and faculty and everything at ETBU that have been more than impactful in my life since I've
Yeah,
been there. So it's
good
gonna be
stuff.
excited. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Austin. It's been a
Of
pleasure,
course.
and y'all be tuning in pretty soon. I believe it's actually episode 9. I could totally be wrong. It's 9, 10. We're not doing the that certain joke anymore. But
Yeah,
it's
we're not
about
doing that.
episode 9, 10. That's not gonna be funny ever. But we're about there. But we're about getting back. This is my last day in Knoxville, so I'm enjoying it best as I can. It's Austin's also last day in Knoxville with me at
With
least.
him. Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. But thank y'all for tuning in. Hope y'all got something out of this and be sticking in for more episodes. And when we get back to Marshall, plenty more. Thank y'all for listening.
Stay tuned.
Yes, sir.
Just turn off.
I don't know. I thought I was supposed to stop the recording when I pressed the button.